This week in the conversation, I have the privilege to welcome author Melisa Quigley out of Australia, Melbourne, Australia. Just right outside Melbourne, Australia. She's written a compelling novel titled The Complexity of Love. Before we get into the video, I just want to remind everyone that it's important to subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you do, don't forget to click the notification bell so that way every time a video is posted, I'll go directly into your portable. So let's get started. Again, my name is Ardain Isma, and I am here with a very interesting author out of Melbourne, Australia. We're going to be talking about a fantastic novel, The Complexity of Love. Melisa, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
So to officially get started, would you please tell the viewers of CSMS Magazine, who is Melisa Quigley?
Well, I am living in Bentley now, but I lived in Noble Park and I grew up in Noble Park for 21 years. And I have the setting of the novel, The Complexities of Love, in Noble Park. And I worked for 21 years in a legal firm. And I decided to take a voluntary redundancy because the firm was merging. And I wanted to reinvent myself and have some sort of hobby to do when I retire, because I'm in my 50s. And I thought I'll work part-time, and I went to university as a mature age student, and I studied professional writing and editing.
Very good. Quite an impressive resume. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the complexity of love. Mm-hmm. You have the right keyword on the title. Very intriguing.
Yes.
Of course, we understand, Melisa, love is a very complex thing. Mm-hmm. I have a great writer, Jack Stephen Alexis, who once said that human heart is such a complex thing. Mm-hmm. So sometimes when you think you know someone, and you might have to find out, very little I knew about that person. Mm-hmm. So the protagonist of the story is Mark Cooney.
Yes.
Who grows up aware that there's something different about him, yes, like most children, of course, and growing up, who seem to have mixed feeling about who they love, and their and begin to question their upbringing in life. You write this story from that perspective. Let me ask a question, Melisa. Before you began to write the story, did you do some research on?
I did. I watched a lot of documentaries, read a lot of books, and I've got 3 relatives that are gay as well. So, and one of them, who is older than me, used to ring me up and talk to me about his thoughts and feelings, because he found it very difficult in the 60s and 70s. Well, not in the 60s because I was born in the 60s, but in the 70s and 80s, he found it really difficult. Okay. And so I drew from that experience, and I've been writing in a diary since I was 12 years old as well. So, yeah.
Very good. So the person who plays the supporting roles in that story is Dave.
Yes.
Why do you think Mark was tremendously afraid of expressing his feeling, and doing so, accepting at some point his precarious situation? Is that because he was afraid that he would be rejected by society?
I think so, because in those days, especially in Australia, you were called names if you were gay. People rejected you. I know that my relative, his family still don't accept that he's gay.
Right.
They just can't stand the thought of a gay male in the family. They wanted someone that would marry and have grandchildren and things like that. And it's only recently that people have been able to get married in Australia that are gay. And so, you know, it's very difficult. And so he kept his feelings within. And a lot of men in the documentaries that I've watched and that, they've done the same thing, because they're frightened of, it's like racism as well in a way, like, you know, people always having a go at you all the time. Yeah.
Now, you say he was tormented by his inner demons.
Yes.
What's going on inside of him? And at the same token, he refused to be controlled by any person, by anyone.
Yeah.
Are you trying to
Dave was being felt like he was being controlled, because his family also wanted him to be a certain way. Like, they wanted him, like Mark's family, they wanted him to have children, and they didn't want him to be gay, and they even were going to send him to Canada for conversion therapy, and he'd already tried aversion therapy and sent him away as a young boy because they noticed things that were happening with Dave. So they sent him away, and then, you know, he came back years later, 10 years later, but it hadn't worked. I think if someone has something inside of them, like a feeling, that you can't take that away from them. Like, it's like me saying to you, or don't go out with an Australian girl. But if you were in love with that person, would you listen to your family, or would you do what they say and just say, oh no, you're not for me, you know, because I'm, you know, whatever nationality, etc. Do you get what I mean?
Of course, yes. In conservative societies, you see a lot of abuse, even from relatives, because of the fact that they cannot imagine their own child, or maybe their own cousin or their own brother, could grow up to be such a kind of person.
Yes.
You know, it's very difficult for them to accept. Now, Melisa, do you think, because this is something society is still learning how to deal with?
Exactly, I agree. And it's very difficult because, like, there's still countries in the world that just will not accept it. And if you can put yourself in someone's shoes in the 70s and 80s, and it was really a lot worse then, because it's like religion as well. Like, people, you know, argue over religion, they argue over so many different things, and people have certain views, and so they just like stick in, especially older people too. They won't sort of, I don't know, they just are stuck in their sort of views, and they won't change them regardless of society and society moving on. Even though now people here can get married, it's like, oh, you've written a gay novel. You know, that sort of thing. Even in my family, it's like, oh, it's a gay novel. So it's like you're wiped off the map straight away. That's what I'm saying, because they're older and they're being taught that you marry a male and a female come together, they procreate, they have children. And so, you know, that's socially acceptable. And that's the way they were brought up. Whereas young people, you talk to them and they're more accepting of it, because it's like what's happening now in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I believe that especially in industrial societies and more liberal societies, or in urban world, I would say it's becoming more acceptable. It's not tolerable in some sense.
Yes.
And I think, Melisa, it is still a fight in conservative places.
Yes.
But your book resonates to It's very, very specific audience, and also it's a teaching tool also. Although, because of the fact that fiction reflects reality.
It does, very much so, yeah.
Now, how did you come to decide on a subject like this, Melisa?
Well, my mum died, and I liken myself to Mark in a lot of ways, drifting through life. Young people want to love and be loved, and we all do. Right. And even when we're older, we still want to love and be loved. And I think I drifted through life for a long time because my mum died in a coma, and she just went to bed and then didn't wake up and went into a coma for 5 days. And I know that didn't happen to Mark, but I was sort of right. I was looking in my diaries and I just looked at different aspects that happened along the way, and it's not all true. I've fictionalized a lot of it and made up a lot of it, but I just sort of put pieces together. I'm a pantser, not a plotter. So, and then it all just gelled into a story. So, and I have a writers group that I go to, and like we read out our pages. We take 4 pages, 2,000 words every fortnight, and I'd read it out and they'd like say what they liked and what they didn't like. And everyone loved every single 4 pages that I had and thought that I had.
Quite encouraging though.
Story, yeah, because when I was at university, everyone criticised my writing and said it was terrible. So I've gone from one extreme to the other.
But you know something, Melisa, it wasn't the fact that they criticized your writing. They probably criticized the idea behind it, or the subject you were writing about.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, because I know you're a great writer.
Thank you.
So now let me ask you something. You said you have a writing community in your area.
Yes.
I interviewed a writer out of Oakville, Canada, Ontario, Canada, who told me that because of COVID, many writing conferences, or because I'm a writer myself, and there isn't anything so cozy for me, so interesting for me when I have to leave home to go to a writer's conference. And because of COVID, we've been confined at home and everything is being done virtually, although you still get the feel of it, but it's not the same.
Not the same. No, it's not the same.
At all. So how was it for you before COVID?
Before COVID, it was fantastic. We'd meet at the community centre and we'd all sit around the table and go through our papers. I can't even do that here on Zoom or anything like they do, because my husband has got our 2 dogs in the car at the moment. Okay. Otherwise, they would be barking because they'd hear an unfamiliar voice in the house, and they would be scratching at the door. So what they do is, with the writing group, they PDF the people's pieces to me. I read through them and I write my comments on them, and then I PDF them back, and it's just not the same. So I'd rather be in a room with like-minded people and discuss what they've got to write, and talk to them about it and things like that, and then talk to me about my writing.
Melisa, let me ask you this. The Complexity of Love is not your first novel, is it?
Yes, it's my debut novel.
It's your debut novel, okay.
Yes.
But before that, but you knew you were already a writer, right?
I've written short stories, poetry, flash fiction in 21 anthologies I've been published in. But I've always loved reading from a young age. I've started on Golden books and Enid Blyton books, and and I'm an avid reader. I love Diana Gabaldon's books, and I reckon that she's really, really good, because it's like she's talking to me when I read her writing. You know, when you read something and you feel like it's sort of like, I suppose with mine, you disassociate it in one respect from it. But when you read hers, it's like she's actually having a conversation in the room with you over a cup of tea. That's the way I feel when I read her novels. And when you have a novel that, well, all of her novels, and they've been made into a series, I think they've done a fantastic job, because I must say that when you read something, it's never as good when it's made into a movie. Like Angela's Ashes by Frank McCourt, you know, that was fantastic when it was like the book, but when it was made into a movie, it wasn't as good. Well, that's just my personal opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
That's okay. Yeah, I know when a writer for the first time is receives an acceptance letter from a publishing company.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
What was the feeling when you get that?
Jump up and down. It was actually disbelief, because I'd sent it out to 22 literary agencies, and I received an acceptance straight away. And then they said, oh, we're sorry, the next day we can't accept it because of treaty laws. Okay. So they said, we'll have to reject it, but they said it's fantastic and that you're bound to get it picked up by someone. And I had 12 rejections from literary agencies. And then someone said to me on Twitter, well, why don't you send it out to a publisher? So, and Eric happened to follow me that week, and I thought, oh, well, I'll send it to him. I probably won't get anywhere, but I'll send it to him. And I sent it somewhere else, and Eric asked me to sign straight away. He only read chapter 1. Okay. And I said, what about the rest of it? You mightn't like it. And he goes, give me 24 hours. And he said, but sign anyway, because I like it. So I did. The Europa Books came back and they said they loved it and wanted to Skype me for an interview, and I said, too late, I've signed. So, and that was it. So, but they've been fantastic. Alex and Eric are really, really good. They've held my hand all the way along, and I couldn't have asked for better. And I love the cover. I've got it here. Can you see it?
Yeah, can you raise up a little bit? Just raise it up for the audience.
There you go. Yeah. Beautiful.
Okay, so every time in the conversation, at some point, Melisa, we start talking about literature. So we know that we're living on Earth, okay? So I know you cannot be an impeccable author, writer, without being an avid reader. You just say that since you were very young, you were passionate with reading.
Yes.
If I were to ask you who you would consider as your number one writer, it doesn't have to be an Australian.
I like Diana Gabaldon.
Who?
Diana Gabaldon.
Well, why you
She wrote the Outlander series.
Okay.
Have you seen it on TV, the Outlander series? It's historical. Yeah. Yeah, I really like her. And I like Khaled Hosseini. I loved The Kite Runner. And I loved 1,000 Splendid Suns. I didn't like the movie The Kite Runner, though. Like I said, I think the book's always better than the movie. I loved Angela's Ashes by Frank McCourt. Yeah, there's so many.
You know what? I'll take it with the first one, Diana, because I asked you for just one. Your number one, the most preferred one. I believe it's Diana. Okay, I think so. All right, now you just mentioned your husband. Actually, now I know as a woman, you probably love cuisine. I'm not very familiar with the Australian cuisine. Now, would you please tell us a little bit? Just educate us in a minute.
Well, normally it's like a barbecue, like the sort of things that we eat, like steak and vegetables or whatever. But I like risotto. I cook a really mean prawn and bok choy risotto. And I'm one of those people that other people get annoyed with, because I can just throw things in and it all turns out perfect. Okay. And that's not being, pumping my tires up. But I don't have to look at a recipe. I can just think, oh, I'll have a little bit of this and a little bit of that and throw it all together, and it can taste really nice. So I like garlic, I like curries. I make laksa, and I make a curry, Thai green and chicken curry. I love Thai food and Vietnamese, and I love sushi. And because we're in lockdown, I like to try different things, like making different things as well. So, yeah.
So it seems to me that you love the kitchen, huh?
I do.
Just like my wife.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Okay, what about music now? Is it Australian music just the same as American?
Yeah, I think so. I don't like, I shouldn't say I don't like, but Jimmy Barnes doesn't interest me, his music. He sounds like he's singing in the shower.
You know what? I hope he doesn't hear you now.
I like Snow Patrol. I love their music. I'm a romantic at heart, so I love Snow Patrol. I love all their sort of songs like Just Say Yes and Chasing Cars and End, and I love the soundtrack to A Beautiful Mind. Have you heard that?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just love that. I can play that over and over again.
Over and over.
Yeah, it's like there's angels in the room, and I meditate, and I do yoga as well. So A Beautiful Mind is just like, it just is good chill out music just to relax to. So
my last question, Melisa, if there's one lesson that you would want to give a writer or any person who would want to embark upon a journey to teach the world, just like the complexity of love, using his pen, something, a subject that is so difficult to write, what lesson would you give that person?
Well, it took me 5 years to write that book. So I'd say not to give up, and to read widely as well, to really research your subject too. Like, I've watched a lot of documentaries and read a lot of gay books, and also I've had 3 gay relatives to bounce off of. But I think never give up, and to read widely. Like, really research the topic, and like, even with me, like, that's my first novel, and I was lucky enough that Eric took me on board, Eric and Alex. But I'm trying to get other things published now, and I know what it's like. It's not easy. I still haven't had the stars, I call it the stars and the sun align for me. So it's like, never give up, just keep going, keep writing. Don't just write one thing and stop. Keep writing. It doesn't end there. If you want to be a writer, you keep writing. It's not about one book. It's about, even if you enter competitions, I've entered a couple of writing competitions recently for short stories. You need to get your name out there and to show people your work, write some poetry. I write a poem and a 6-word story on Twitter every day and ask people to join in, just so that they get a feel for it. Practice is everything. The more you practice, the better you'll become at it.
Very good. So with that, I'm just going to say, Melisa, it's been such a pleasure to have you this evening.
It's lovely to meet you, and thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed the conversation.